Hi, I'm Matt. Welcome to the channel, Fabricating Firewood. Today I'm going to be fabricating some steel. The problem I've been having is I've been trying to find a old oil tank, the oval one, so I could cut it in half and use it as a burn barrel because it's thicker. The problem is I haven't been able to find any anywhere. I've been searching for months. So I'm just going to bite the bullet, and I know people are going to be like, oh, the galvanized steel burning. I've been around galvanized steel, and I know where to be and where not to be when I welded it. So I got a Tartar water tank, the stock tanks, and what I'm going to do is fabricate a base for it so I can come with my forks, pick it up and set it anywhere in the wood yard. That gives me the ability to move it around and keep it downwind from us, or upwind, I can't remember, basically away from us so it blows away from us. To address the concerns of the galvanization of the steel and the burning. But I definitely need something because right now it's just accumulating in a big pile. So I need to burn that stuff as I go. And with the new Easton Made 2228 pizza wedge, it definitely creates a lot of waste. However, it's well worth it because it creates a lot of nice firewood. I mean, it just pushes it right through, cuts it into a nice block, and you can control the size by raising or lowering the wedge. So what I'm doing is I'm bending some steel to make the base so that the tank can rest in. So when I burn through the tank, I can just get another tank and just drop it in. Don't have to worry about it been an issue. So I'm bending some steel, and then I'm going to start welding. I thought I was recording earlier, so I had to redo it yesterday when I was cutting wood or splitting wood. The battery died, so I didn't get to do the outro of the video, so I'm just going to kind of figure something out from there. I'm all new to this YouTube thing as far as producing videos, but it's a learning experience. This whole thing goes into what I was saying earlier, where it becomes a problem of paralysis by analysis of how you're going to make something or fabricate something, and the best thing to do is just to, if you're short on money and materials, do a lot of visualization. I typically do that right before I go to bed. When I'm laying in bed, I try to visualize what I need to make the next day and go through it in my head, the dimensions, rough sizes, what tools I'll need. That way I've kind of done it in my head already. When I get around to doing it, it makes it a lot quicker. As soon as I get this done, I'm going to start loading the IBC cages. This is the last one that I need to make, and then I'm going to go over there and start addressing the connecting point of it. Nice. This also, doing this project, which was just popped in my head yesterday, or no, the night before actually, just proves my point that whenever you go to get some steel, just go to the drop section and just get as much as you can afford to always have on hand, because this stuff I just got to keep on hand in case I needed it, and right now, here it is, I'm needing it. Wish I would have got more, actually. One thing I find myself doing a lot is trying to be exactly perfect. I guess you could call it a flaw of mine. But, I mean, this is just a a burn barrel fixture, cage, whatever you want to call it. So it doesn't have to be dead on balls. But I'd like to be able to have some variation of putting another water tank in it if I need it. So this is the longest piece of flat bar stock that I have, so I'm going to have to mess with it a little bit, get it where I want it, and then just start putting a bunch of little pieces on it. Today feels like breakfast for dinner day. I gotta go to work here in about 2 or 3 hours, and I think I'm gonna have some breakfast. There's a place in Monrovia, or Canby, whatever you want to call it, Indiana. It's called Blueberry Hills Pancakes. I think that's what I'm gonna have for dinner. To tie all this in, I've had this 1/2-inch square tubing for years. And it's the whole, I never throw steel away, but it's the whole, don't ever throw something away, because as soon as you do, you're gonna need it. And this is definitely one of those applications. Typically, when I would do something like this, I would definitely use the angle grinder to grind off the mill scale and whatnot, but it doesn't really matter with this, because this thing is going to be sitting outside constantly. It's going to rust to shit. Oh, rust to shoot. I think I'm going to use this instead of this. It'll be a waste of material. I'll use that some other day. I've got a boatload of this stuff. And it's almost the right length. So if I bring it back just enough so that it meets the radius of the tank and put some verticals on it, it'll hold the tank left to right. I'll use that big piece for a foot. That's what I'll do. Too bad I don't have any thing for fork pockets, but I can always weld that on later. Now I do have a stand for this. However, I have not had a chance to assemble it yet. So I've been trying to get everything done before my surgery, which is in about a week, just over a week. Set it off about a 1/2 inch on both sides. This bottom piece is just going to be to make it a little bit more rigid. The only thing I'm going to be deburring is anything that can scratch or cut me. Not too worried about stuff that's not seen. I'm primarily thinking of the lowest common denominator, my grandkids. Eventually they'll be out here helping me at some point. I don't want them getting cut. It's like I planned that out or something. Okay, time to start welding. Oh, that's bright. I think my welding helmets aren't working right. I have another welding helmet. A Lincoln's much nicer. The battery's dead. Big old honkin' CR2450. Never even heard of that battery. Good enough for government work. I want this just enough to be big, too big, so that it'll fit in there nicely. This helmet is garbage. It's not even dimming out the first second. I'm going to finish welding this. So that cracking you're hearing at the beginning is me just holding it and closing my eyes until I can see that the welding helmet is doing its job and dimming. So it's basically just sitting there boiling metal until I can actually know that I'm not going to be blinded. Now I need to make some feet. So I only need this above the ground enough to get air to the holes I'm going to drill on the sides and to get my forks under. So if I have 2.5 feet, 60 inches, so I have basically 30 inches if I use that one piece, and that's just not enough. But if I go from here to here and then up 4 inches, there we go. So it's 15 inch per leg, so that's 8 1/4, and then come on, tape measure. Need to have a big enough foot. I guess I could weld a smaller piece on there. Yeah, I'll do that. So bend that at 8 1/2. So cut 4 15-inch pieces, bend at 8 1/2. That's what I'll do. I'm going to come over, so 8 1/4 would be there. I'm going to do 6 1/2. The goal is to have the accuracy on the vertical portion so that it's not all sitting cattywampus. Don't forget, boys and girls, measure twice, cut once. Make sure they're all the same. Now I'm going to have this just a little bit high so that it flares out a little bit. this one as the guide. Probably it's going to be a little hot. There we go. Right. All right, the goal is to have the vertical portion equal. A little bit toasty. Nice. So since there's very little metal to weld to on these 1/2 inch square tubing, you want to push it in about 3/8 to 1/2 of an inch to get a good weld on both ends, and then I'm going to overlap it so it's right in the center. It'll give me a good distance to weld. Make sure those are somewhat in line. Bends are a little crooked, but not too bad for doing it by hand. And it's just going to have some feet welded on it, so not that big of a deal. Back to the crappy welding helmet. If you're ever doing any welding other than standing straight up, and probably still even standing straight up if you're doing a lot of welding, wear some earplugs so that you don't get a piece of slag that bounces into your ear. That sucks. Ask me how I know. Now, need some feet. So I need at least two 32-inch pieces of some sort. Looky there, 2 pieces. Just random ones that I grabbed from Warner Steel. Worked perfectly. And they're even bowed just a little bit from where the brake cut them. Brake meaning a metal brake, a shear. Yes, look at that. I'm just gonna eyeball center these up, tack weld them, make sure they're good, and I'll be done. The bend on these ones here, a little bit hanky, so I'm going to weld it at that odd angle so that it's flat. Perfect-ish. Perfect-ish. I'm going to turn this up since I didn't do any chamfers, and this thicker plate can handle it. Right on. Now I got to do is flip it over and do the angle plates. I think that's it. Now all I have to do is drill some holes in the water tank for ventilation. The welder I'm using is a Pro MIG 175 MIG welder. I've had it for about 20 years now. So I called Tartar, the manufacturer of this water tank, and even though it's got sealant, it's not soldered, it's actually rolled. So they roll pressed the bottom onto the sides, and then they tack weld the vertical seam. So even though I'm going to burn off the sealant or any solder or anything that's applied, it's not going to come apart on me. It will, in my opinion, last longer than a 55-gallon drum because it's obviously a little thicker. Just strategically place some holes here for ventilation. Typically I would just take a 12-gauge shotgun and just blast the bottom of a 55-gallon barrel for ventilation, but I want this to look nice. I don't want random holes in it. Since I don't have any in the middle, because the seam, we'll just put a couple odd ones. About 2 months ago, I was drilling into, what was I drilling into with a hole saw? Drilling into my new to me used 500-gallon diesel fuel tank, and I've had it on low. The problem with that is it caught and damn near ripped my wrist off. Man, that sucked. My wrist was done for about a week. So light pressure, strong grip. Okay, now for water, I'm going to put several holes in this so that it drains. I think that's done. Now all that's left to do is burn. Well, clean up, then burn. Burn barrel. So the plan is with this tank is that while we're splitting, we can just throw the debris in, or stuff that's just not going to sell. Since I don't have grizzly bars yet, any of the debris that gets put in the dump trailer when we load the IBC cages will be thrown in the burn barrel at that time instead of accumulating in the back of the dump trailer. So that is why I call the channel Fabricating Firewood. I end up having to fabricate a lot of tools or equipment or shelving or anything that allows me to make the wood yard more efficient. I hope you got something out of this video. This is pretty much the first outro I've done because I keep having a dead battery by the time I get done on the camera. So thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe.